So let me ask you this. You've been looking for a high for the last 5 episodes. We predicted sometime within the next 3 there would be a high, but in your interpretation of high, is this the high you were looking for in episode 6?
No, it's still not there. I mean, the show is still rising. Even with this, so I know what you mean, but really, realistically, what you're asking is this the dip?
Yes.
Did this episode finally dip? And I don't believe so, because they shoved enough action in there to keep you on the edge of your seat anyway.
But yeah, okay. I can see your point here. I think the high for me, of course, I'm looking for that action. I'm looking for that intrigue. I think the character development of Mando does give me that high point for character development.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
For
what I'm saying is, I don't think it then falls off afterwards.
No, I mean it still has that. It still keeps it at that level. It plateaus at the end.
As you're going to see in 10 minutes when we talk about episode 7, it continues to rise through episode 7 to a massive crescendo in the last scene.
Right, and it's it's really just shows that Mando is, to me, Mando figures out in this episode what the real deal is, what's going on. And in the end, he gets his, where the double cross becomes the double cross for Mando, becomes the win.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's that's interesting, because let's talk about that for a second. So in this episode, he takes a job to go get I can't think of the brother's name.
I don't remember.
Owen, something, I don't know. Whatever. He takes a job to get him, but now when he lets him out, the guy makes a comment of how Mando left him in the first place, and now he's here to save him. So we obviously saw there was history, because she got mad at Mando because they had a relationship, and she put a knife to his throat because he left, and now we see the brother's relationship with him, and Bill Burr's trying to get the brother out, but instead, Mando takes out one by one. He takes them all out, and we're left with just the two of them, the brother and him, and he basically talks him into bringing him back to Raznar, and by basically saying, "Oh, well, what about your honor? You took a job. You have to finish the job," and blah blah blah, whatever the nonsense is he gives him. And he does, and he knew they were going to try and kill him, so he leaves the tracking beacon on him so that the Alliance, which the Republic, I guess, whatever they call them, they're coming now, and they're just going to shoot up the space station. Right,
and it was very clever to do. I mean, once Mando knew what was going on, he knew how he would have to resolve it to go. I hate to use the term, but to go back to the way, to learn to survive and use tactics, for him to get out, or else he would be done as is the baby. So, he had to do what he knew to survive. And I thought it was very clever what he did. It was classic backstab.
Absolutely.
By the foes, and a classic turn of events by the hero.
Yeah, I should have seen it coming, honestly, because at one point Mando goes in the room where the guy is dead because she killed him, and he picks up the tracking beacon and looks at it flashing.
Yeah.
So we should have had a clue that this thing was getting back onto the space station, and I should have known, but I didn't. Because in the middle of this, we also have the droid trying to kill Baby Yoda.
Yes.
And he almost succeeds if Mando doesn't show up at exactly the right moment and shoot him in the back, which seems to be becoming a cliche in this show now, where someone takes aim at someone and someone shoots them from behind.
Yeah, it's... we've said this before. It's been said on social media. I've said it. It's the classic Western. Okay, so this point of shooting in the back kind of leads to, although it's not right to do, it kind of has that Western feel where the good cowboy, shoots the bad one in the back. But as far as the droid is concerned, the droid was for me. The droid was the bad guy just because he was with the bad guys. You know.
Well, of course he was the bad guy. And he was going to kill Baby Yoda, so he's got to go.
He's got to go, of course.
What I thought was cool about that is they actually made us believe that Baby Yoda was going to use the Force to stop him. And then he kind of looks at his hand like,
yeah.
Not doing anything yet. And then you see Mando behind him with the gun up, and you're like, oh, that's how it happened. So I thought all those things were good. I thought it was good character building. I thought we learned a lot about Mando's past in a very short period of time, and that he wasn't always quite this noble of a Mandalorian.
No, I agree. I think we learned a little bit as we went along in the series so far, and this is coming to the point where he is, for your term, the best of the best man out there. You know, and this is where this is where he's becoming. You know, he's got to go through his little bad to become the good. And it's I think it's very great character development for Mando, especially when the morals come in.
Well, and also at the very end of that episode, I agree with all that, but at the very end of that episode, we do see that the brother is back in a detention ship. Or that might have been the sister. I'm not really sure.
I think it was the sister because the brother and...
Right, that's what confused me, because the brother and the friend... should have died, right? Because
that's correct.
The X-Wings, which was a cool scene, because he's like, are those X-Wings? Yup. But, so I guess the idea here is that because Mando loved her at some point, he couldn't kill her, so he put her back in a cell. All right, it's character development. It gives you something. And it also, by the way, you know, so she's probably coming back in Season 2 then.
Wait, there's a Season 2?
There's a Season 2.
Oh, my gosh. I can't wait for it. Spoiler alert. There is. Well, Carl Weathers put it out there, and we'll talk about that when we talk about Episode 8. But Carl Weathers put it out there when Episode 8 was aired and said, we'll see you in fall of 2020.
Yeah,
so,
they started to my understanding, they started filming before Episode 1 released.
That's correct, yeah.
So, speaking of Episode 1, or Chapter 1, so I finally looked at the Disney Plus app to find out what the title of Chapter 1 was, and why it's the only episode they don't put the title in, in the beginning.
Okay.
So everyone says Chapter 1, The Prisoner. Chapter 6, The Prisoner, whatever, right? So Episode 1 didn't do it. It just said Chapter 1. Because Chapter 1 is The Mandalorian. That's the name of the episode.
Wow. Okay.
They should. In my opinion, I would have still stuck The Mandalorian in there, but I guess since it's the title of the show, they didn't want to confuse people.
I would have said Chapter 1, the beginning. You know,
something, but it's not. It's just The Mandalorian.
Right.
So that is that.
But that's that. But I mean, you know, as far as the episode, I mean, it was well done. Character development, the fight scenes were great. What else do we have?
I think that covers it for this episode for the most part, right?
Yeah, because it's more or less a like I said, it was a cat and mouse game. There was nothing to it. You know,
no, other than the fact of his past. And here's the thing. You could normally say, well, his past catches up with him. It didn't. He went there on purpose. So it's not like it caught up to him. He went there. So there was really no stakes involved in this. He did this to himself. They created stakes by having him double-crossed and being left there in place of the brother. But in reality, this was just a way for them to tell us, oh, he wasn't always a good guy. Now he's a good guy.
Yeah, it was just a stepping stone into who he is.
Yeah, which they could have given us in any other episode. However, moving along, Chapter 7, The Reckoning. Now, this I thought, between this and 8, I don't know which one's the best episode of the series.
I don't. There's Chapter 7, The Reckoning. This is the beginning of a 2-part finale. This is the episode where we get the band back together, right? All the Beatles get back together. So
yep.
the Beatles come back, and you know, you kind of knew coming up that he knew he was going to have his friends come back, and even the Ugnaught, who is played by Nick Nolte, he comes back. But it's a really, to me, this 2-parter and I said it for episode 6, but I'll say it for this two-parter, true Western. Okay? Desolate town, and we'll get to 8, but, true desolate town, the true black hat comes rolling in because the prize is on the line. Baby Yoda's on the line. Something that needs to be protected. And the black hat will do anything to get the prize. So
here's my only thing with this episode. And I really enjoyed it and loved it. But why did that guy have such an attachment to Baby Yoda?
I think that's something that we could explore in season 2. Because
he's dead now.
The black hat?
No, that yes. No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the one that helped Mando
carry the baby.
Right. Why?
Because
he doesn't know him. He wanted them gone from the area, right? Now all of a sudden he comes back in episode 7, and it's, I reprogrammed the droid to protect the baby, and I'm only here I didn't want to work with you before, but I'm here to save the baby, and I'm going to give my life for the baby. And
well, if you remember,
he had no relationship with him.
Well, if you remember in the script, he said, when him and Gina Carano and Mandalorian were sitting down, and he was questioning Gina, and oh, you work for the Republic, blah blah blah. He goes, yeah. She goes, yeah. What about you? He goes, unfortunately, I work for the other side. So he's trying to make amends because it seemed to me like he was the bad guy. So he's trying to make amends, knowing.
So was she. She was a shock trooper,
right? For the rebellion, she was a shock trooper for the rebellion.
Shock troopers.
That's how I'm looking at it, unless I'm wrong.
No.
No?
No, they were on the same side. They both were bad.
Okay.
But, okay, my point is he has this attachment to the baby that doesn't exist anywhere before this moment. Why would he even reprogram a droid to say... He wanted them gone, and then he reprograms a droid. The whole reason he helped Mando in the first place was to get peace in his valley again, right?
Yes.
And then he reprograms a droid to save a baby that he might never see again.
Because he knew
bad writing.
this
Because
was...
bad writing. Lazy writing.
I don't think so. I think... Okay, putting your lazy writing as a subtitle. I think finding peace in the valley, I think this is the exception clause in the contract, if you will. If I should go, the droid will take over. Just as the droid looked after me. Just as the droid looked after me, because I reprogrammed it, I go, the droid needs to continue and no longer be the bad guy. The droid needs to continue to do good. What does that have to do
with the baby?
It's
nothing. Look, here, you're going to do... I deal with this on Star Trek podcasts all the time. You're about to do a bunch of mental calisthenics and try and bend over backwards to make this make sense, but it doesn't.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna slip a few vertebrae, but I'm gonna tell you this. Okay.
His love of the baby all of a sudden makes no sense.
It's the act of compassion. It's the act of doing good. That's my belief.
Okay.
It's the act of doing good. You can say it's lazy writing. I can understand that. But it's the act of doing good after being evil, because he was on the opposite side. So, I think he knew there was something special about it. He knew how important it was. He wanted to be just as important by protecting the baby, by going after it, and by, in turn, having the droid be the compassionate one and take over for what the Ugnaught lost out on when he died. Spoiler alert. That's just
okay.
my thing.
Whatever. Moving on. I do this in every podcast. I don't know.
I apologize.
I don't mean with you. I mean every podcast.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to... You're right. I'm doing jumping jacks to make myself believe it. You know what I mean? That's just my belief.
Just chalk it up to lazy writing and move on. I mean, So there's two types of fans in the world, right? There's the ones that are willing to do what you just did,
Mm-hmm.
and try every argument under the